Indiana Jones, the latest Doom, had disappointing launches sales-wise. Arguably two major commercial flops for Bethesda ZeniMax. Both titles apparently didn't really move the needle for Game Pass subscriptions either, so what gives? Internally, this is surely an issue. This is written by Daniel Camillo of GamesIndustry.biz. Now, before I continue, I must say this. GamesIndustry.biz was the outlet that wrote that article. It was one of their other journalists. It wasn't Daniel Camillo. That Call of Duty had the potential, this is Black Ops 6, to bring in more of a black ink for PlayStation and potentially red ink for Xbox or Microsoft, the owners. That's where this kind of, Xbox hate or whatever it is coming from. That's what I'll call it, because it's absolutely some kind of a hatred or bias against that is masked in all of these word salads. And this thing continues. Before your blood boils to 100, calm down, get a drink. There's more to aggravate you. You don't need to distress. This person writes and says, I know there's a lot of angles to look at this. I would say, if you know that there are a lot of angles, let me just help you with one that would help us. Show us the data-driven angle. Because when we look at the data-driven angle and you go to Circana, and you look at what ID themselves have posted, did this game Doom not reach people 7x faster than other Doom games? I said that the game had a bigger potential on PC, but when they added hardware ray tracing, they basically, in a sense, organically or artificially negated a good chunk of their fans. And then when they required an 8 core whatever CPU, that also mechanically, alienated some of people that may have been able to buy the game. However, even with all that, the game seemingly reached more people faster than any other Doom games. And Game Pass, basically, the monetary pool that pays for these titles, is still seeing subscriber counts, especially on PC. When you look at the data sets, this statement that he's talking about is weird because he's looking at everything else except the numbers. It's like looking at the sun to try to find Venus. Yeah, let me just glare into the sun so that I may see Venus behind it. But I'm strictly thinking, according to him, from the perspective of Microsoft and its gaming division, looking at these two big titles being released under the same house, in quote, and performing really poorly by most industry metrics. Yes! Of course, only the companies themselves know what kind of performance expectations they had/have for their releases. Then why are you talking about this should be a problem internally? You don't know what's going on in there. Admittedly, you don't know. I don't know. We don't know. But internally, it's an issue. But then you say you don't know. That's what you're saying here. But he says still, for a company like Microsoft that follows the infinite growth mantra / myth or whatever, these launches don't seem to align with its wider fiduciary duty, do they? Ladies and gentlemen, the media is filled with what I think are some of the most backhanded, snide, pedantic, expressive writers. These guys are the way they actually put these things. I don't know. Are you trying to inform someone or are you trying to express your own opinion? If it was your opinion, it would be like, okay, but if this is supposed to be information, this is a whole bunch of this information dropped here. It sounds to me, or according to what we can see in comparison to some of the data sets, is a pile of garbage. Can we at least find something that we can say, okay, what are the metrics that we're going to use to actually put a comparison in play right now? Right now, 3 million units is a absolute winner because the market is so saturated. That's analysis. In my humble opinion, I look at number A, look at number B, look at gamer number A, gamer number B, look at gamer wallet number A, gamer wallet number B, look at what people are showing from the industry. We mash it up together and we say, bruh, in the month of April alone, how many games have launched on Steam? How many games have launched on PlayStation? How many games have launched on Xbox? We can look at it from a calendar perspective. What industry standards is somebody on Twitter touting without even picking up a calculator. You're not free from math. You are not immune from being held accountable to mathematical realities just because you're writing for a publication. This is why these publications have all faded into irrelevance. Nobody really cares. We now use y'all basically to just do videos and content instead of citing y'all, instead of being excited for what you guys are writing to show us what's inside of the industry. You're over here writing. I think there's at least an interesting conversation to be had here, and I don't see any gaming media outlet leaning on this right now, asking the hard questions. The truth is nobody sees any gaming media outlet. That's what the truth is. Okay, disclaimers. According to them, they're still writing. Both these games are incredibly good. Play them if you can. If you're an Xbox fanboy or PS hater or vice versa, please grow up and learn to simply enjoy video games. About data. Huh? They went ahead and put a post on here about the data that they never cited. And then they said a lot of people apparently have no idea what that gaming industry, gaming analytics / data intelligence gathering is a business and a whole industry, and that many companies pay handsomely for reliable data, reports, and insights. Frankly, I can't be bothered to explain whenever writing about sales. Get the flip out of here. Get thee behind me. I was about to say something absolutely uncouth. Whoo. What? This, on top of all the data that these companies often publicly release as third parties in order to showcase their ability and value so that publishers and devs then actually pay for more insightful and detailed services. This is common, but many people simply don't know. And then they write, I'm not blaming people for not knowing, especially if they're not at least tangentially involved in the industry, but I also can't explain common industry practices every time I'm commenting on game sales performance. You are not free from being held accountable to numbers. You act like the data is somewhere in some kind of a secret vault that we can't see it. I almost called this guy an endearing term that we black people call each other. It almost came out. Homie, we have SteamDB that literally just punches out the numbers. You can take from there and you can permutate, correlate, deduct, deduce, reduce, induce, and come out with at least close proxies for data that is absolutely out there for everybody. Has anybody on here on the Video Game Fight School channel ever paid bills? If you have, you can solve the gaming industry math with ease. You use your electricity and you know that in the summers or the winters, what that electricity bill is going to feel like. You kind of get a sense for it. Do you know why? Because you paid that bill in past summers and past winters. Those are the times where your electric bills actually shoot up in the United States, depending on the regions that you live in. Now, if you live in like frigging, North Pole, and, that's a whole different conversation, right? But even if you're like, you move around and you're a freaking nomad, you ought to know that this is a thing that's happening. Why? Because of past data trends and such. This thing is not rocket science. Why is this person trying to make it sound like, we're little children and patronize? What in the world is this? What is this? This person asked and said, you work for ID, Bethesda, Microsoft. Are you a shareholder? If none of the above is true, why are you so concerned about the financials following game releases? Does that negate quality in front of the game? That's a question asking about that. This person says, in my opinion, the game market is overcrowded. Nobody has time to play all these games. He says, I'm inclined to agree with you on that somewhat, for core gamers in particular, but it becomes difficult to manage the time, mood, and money to play all the games coming out. How do you know any of this? Somebody asks. Sales figures aren't public and Game Pass numbers aren't public. They say we have data. Several different reliable analytics companies have been disclosing data. Which ones? We have data, Google. Which ones? We say, you see it? He keeps saying we have data. OP, shout out to you. You say, where's the data? I don't understand how people can take some random analyst firm as a fact when these firms can't calculate the number of Xbox consoles sold. They can only estimate, yet they somehow can calculate the number of digital and physical copies Doom sold on Xbox and Steam. I doubt it even sold 200,000 on Xbox. That's a massive stretch. We have data. Where's the data? We have data. Where's the data? Where's the data? Where is it? Where is it? That's all they do. We have data. Where did you get the data from? Where are you getting it from? We are asking you, show us the numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best year. If you want to be somebody who actually wants to follow, it's not sensational to sit here and be crunching numbers and be looking through games and be looking at genres, looking at prices, looking at player counts, looking at reviews, and looking at it's not at all, pretty by any means. However, it is essential. It's necessary, right? And thank God for giving Gabe Newell the sense to make this data public, because Gabe understands one thing. It is gamers that eventually make game developers. So gamers can start seeing an industry and knowing where the need is. This stuff is valuable info. See, a lot of the gaming press and the gaming media, this is why I laugh when I see that sometimes they say some of the things they say. Many of them have relied on inside access to basically be able to do much. But when it comes to actually deductive, strategies and actually putting their hand in the mud and rolling their sleeves up, I got to tell you, man, these are some of the, guys, I got to end this video, man, because I'm about to, Peace out.